All right. Chapter 15. Hold up. 1. Repeating mystery, the mystery of the local sky. How, if this Earth be a moving Earth, could anything sail to, fall to, or in any other way reach this Earth without being smashed into fine particles by the impact? This Earth is supposed to rip space at a rate of about 19 miles a second. Concepts smash when one tries to visualize such an accomplishment. Now, 3 times over, we shall have other aspects of this one mystery of the local sky. First, we shall take up data upon seeming relation between a region of this Earth that is subject to earthquakes or so-called earthquakes and appearances in the sky of this special region, and the repeating falls of objects and substances from this local sky and nowhere else at the times. We have had records of quakes that occurred at Irkutsk, Siberia, and the stones that fell from the sky to Irkutsk. Upon March 8th, 1829, a severe quake preceding by clattering sounds was felt at Irkutsk. There was something in the sky. Dr. Ehrman, the geologist, was in Irkutsk at the time. In the reports of the British Association, 1854-20, it is said that Dr. Ehrman's opinion, the sounds that preceded the quake were in the sky. The situation at Comrie, Perthshire is similar. A stone fell May 17, 1830, in the earthquake region around Comrie. It fell at Perth, 22 miles from Comrie. See Fletcher's List, page 100. Upon February 15, 1837, a black powder fell upon the Comrie region. October 12, 1839, a quake at Comrie. According to the Reverend M. Walker of Comrie, the sky at the time was peculiarly strange and alarming and appeared as if hung with sackcloth. In Mallett's catalog, it is said that throughout the month of October, shocks were felt at Comrie, sometimes slight, sometimes severe. Like distant thunder of reports of artillery, the noise sometimes seemed to be high in the air and was often heard without a sensible shock. Upon the 23rd of October occurred the most violent quake in the whole series of phenomena at Comrie. See the Eden New Phil Journal, Volume 32. All data in this publication were collected by David Milne. According to the Reverend M. Maxton of Fallis Manse, 10 miles from Comrie, rattling sounds were heard in the sky preceding the shock that was felt. In volume 33, page 373 of the journal, someone who lived 7 miles from Comrie is quoted. In every case, I am inclined to say that the sound proceeded not from underground. The sound seemed high in the air. Someone who lived at Gowrie, 40 miles from Comrie, is quoted. The most general opinion seems to be that the noise accompanying the concussion proceeded from above. See volume 34, page 87. Another impression of explosion overhead and concussion underneath. The noises heard first seemed to be in the air and the rumbling sound in the earth. Milne's own conclusion: it is plain that there are, connected with the earthquake shock, sounds both in the earth and in the air, which are distinct and separate. If upon the 23rd of October, 1839, there was a tremendous shock, not of subterranean origin, but from a great explosion in the sky of Comrie, and if this be accepted, there will be concussions somewhere else. The faults of dogma will open. There will be seismic phenomena in science. I have a feeling of a conventional survey of the Scottish sky, vista of a fair blue vacant expanse. Our suspicions daub the impression with black alarms, but also do we project detonating stimulations into the fair and blue, but unoccupied and meaningless. One cannot pass this single occurrence by considering it only in itself. It is one of a long series of quakes of the earth at Comrie and phenomena in the sky at Comrie. We have stronger evidence than the mere supposition of many persons in and near Comrie that, upon October 23rd, 1839, something had occurred in the sky because sounds seem to come from the sky. Milne says that tickles, which presumably had fallen from the sky. The shocks were felt in November. In November. According to Milne, powder-like soot fell from the sky upon Comrie and surrounding regions. In his report to the British Association, 1840, Milne, reviewing the phenomena from the year 1788, says, occasionally there was a fall of fine black powder. January 8th, 1840, sounds like cannonading at Comrie and a crackling sound in the air, according to some of the residents. Whether they were sounds of quakes or concussions that followed explosions, 247 occurrences between October 3rd, 1839 and February 14th, 1841 are listed in the Eden New Field Journal 32-107. It looks like bombardment, and like most persistent bombardment from somewhere, and the frequent fall from the sky of the debris of explosions. February 18th, 1841, a shock and a fall of discolored rain at Comrie. See Roper's list of earthquakes year after year and the continuance of this seeming bombardment in one small part of the sky of this earth, though I can find records only of dates and no details. However, I think I have found record of all of a fall from the sky of debris of an explosion more substantial than finely powdered soot at Crieff, which is several miles from Comrie. In the American Journal of Science 2-28275, Professor Shepard tells a circumstantial story of an object that looked like a lump of slag or cinders reported to have fallen at Crieff. Scientists have refused to accept the story upon the grounds that the substance was not of true meteoric material. Professor Shepard went to Crieff and investigated. He gives his opinion that possibly the object did fall from the sky. The story that he tells is that upon the night of April 23rd, 1855, a young woman in the home of Sir William Murray, Archelacater House, Crieff, saw or thought she saw a luminous object falling and picked it up, dropping it because it was hot or because she thought it was hot. For a description in a letter, presumably from Sir William Murray or some member of his family, see Yearbook of Facts, 1856-273. It is said that about 12 fragments of scorious matter, hot and emitting a sulfurous odor, had fallen. In Ponton's Earthquakes, page 118, it is said that upon the 8th of October, 1857, there had been in Illinois an earthquake preceded by a luminous appearance described by some as a meteor and by others as vivid flashes of lightning. Though felt in Illinois, the center of the disturbance was at St. Louis, Missouri. One notes the misleading and the obscuring of such wording. In all contemporaneous accounts, there is no such indefiniteness as one description by some and another notion by others. Something exploded terrifically in the sky at St. Louis and shook the ground severely or violently at 4:20 a.m. October 8th, 1857, according to Tim's Yearbook of Facts, 1858-271. A blinding meteoric ball from the heavens was seen. A large and brilliant meteor shot across the heavens. Of course, this supposed earthquake was concussion from an explosion in the sky, but our own interest is in a series that is similar to others that we have recorded. According to the New York Times, October 12th, the slight shock was said to have been felt for hours before the Great Concussion and another 3 days before. But see Milne's catalog of destructive earthquakes, not a mention of anything that would lead one away from safe and standardized suppositions. C. Bull Size Society American 3-68. Here the meteor is mentioned, but there is no mention of the preceding concussions. Time after time, in a period of about 3 days, concussions were felt in and around St. Louis. One of these concussions, with its sound like thunder or a roar of artillery, was from an explosion in the sky. If the others were of the same origin, how could detonating meteors so repeat in one small local sky and nowhere else, if this earth be a moving body? If it is said that only by coincidence did a meteor explode over a region where there had been other earthquakes, here is the question. How many times can we accept that explanation as to similar series? In the Proceedings of the Society for Psychical Research, 19-144, a correspondent writes that in Herefordshire, September 24th, 1854, upon a day that was perfectly still, sky cloudless. He had heard sounds like the discharges of heavy artillery at intervals of about 2 minutes, continuing several hours. Again, the mystery of the local sky. If those sounds did come from the sky, we have no data for thinking that they did. In the London Times, November 9th, 1858, a correspondent writes that in Cardiganshire, Wales, he had, in the autumn of 1855, often heard sounds like the discharges of heavy artillery, 2 or 3 reports rapidly, and then an interval of perhaps 20 minutes. Also with long intervals, sometimes of days and sometimes of weeks, continuing throughout the winter of 1855 to 56. Upon the 3rd of November, 1858, he had heard the sounds again repeatedly and louder than they had been 3 years before. In the Times, November 12th, someone else says that at Dogeley, he, too, had heard the mysterious phenomenon. On the 3rd of November, someone else that upon October 13th, he had heard the sounds of, heard the sounds at Swansea. The reports as if of heavy artillery came from the west, succeeding each other at apparently regular intervals during the greater part of the afternoon of that day. My impression was that the sounds might have proceeded from practicing at Milford, but I ascertained the following day that there had been no firing of any kind there. Correspondent to the Times, November 20th, that, with little doubt, the sounds were from artillery practiced at Milford. He does not mention the investigation as to the sounds of October 13th, but says that there had been cannon firing upon November 3rd at Milford. Times, December 1st. That most of the sounds could be accounted for as sounds of blasting in quarries. Daily News, November 16th, that similar sounds had been heard in 1848 New Zealand and were results of volcanic action. Standard, November 16th, that the mysterious noise must have been from Devonport, where a sunken rock had been blown up. So, with at least variety, these sounds were explained. But we learn that the series began before October 13th. Upon the evening of September 28th, in the Dartmoor district of Crediton, a rumbling sound was heard. It was not supposed to be an earthquake because no vibration of the ground was felt. It was thought that there had been an explosion of gunpowder, but there had been no such terrestrial explosion. About an hour later, another explosive sound was heard. It was like all the other sounds, and in one place was thought to be distant cannonading, terrestrial cannonading. See Quarterly Journal Geologic Society of London, Volume 15. Somewhere near Barasal, Bengal, were occurring such sounds as the sounds of Cardiganshire, which were like the sounds of Melida. In the Proc Asiatic Soc of Bengal, November 1870, are published letters upon Barasal guns. One writer says that the sounds were probably booming of the surf. Someone else points out that the sounds usually described as explosive were heard too far inland to be traced to such origin. A clear, calm day in December 1871 in Nature 53-197, Mr. G.B. Scott writes in that in Bengal he had heard a dull, muffled boom, as if of distant cannon, single detonations, and then 2 or 3 in quicker succession. In the London Times, January 20th, 1860, several correspondents write as to the sound resembling the discharge of a gun high in the air. That was heard near Reading, Berkshire, England, January 17th, 1860. See the Times, January 24th, to say that a meteor had exploded would at present well enough account for this phenomenon. Sounds like those that were heard in Headinshire, September 24th, 1854, were heard later. In the English Mechanic 100-279, it is said that upon November 9th, 1862, the Reverend T. Webb, the astronomer of Hardwick, 15 miles west of Hereford, heard sounds that he attributed to gunfire at Milford Haven, about 85 miles from Hardwick. Upon August 1st, 1865, Mr. Webb saw flashes upon the horizon at Hardwick and attributed them to gunfire at Tenby upon occasion of a visit by Prince Arthur. Tenby, too, is about 85 miles from Hardwick. There were other phenomena in the region centering around Hereford and Worcestershire. Upon October 6, 1863, there were disturbance. Was a disturbance that is now listed as an earthquake, but in the London newspapers, so many reports upon this occurrence state that a great explosion had been thought to occur, and that the quake was supposed to be an earthquake of subterranean origin only after no terrestrial explosion could be heard of, that the phenomenon is questionable origin. There was a similar concussion in about the same region, October 30th, 1868. Again, the shock was widely attributed to the Great Explosion, perhaps in London, and again was supposed to have been an earthquake when no terrestrial explosion could be heard of. Arcana of Science, 1829-196. That near Mahal, India, February 27, 1828, fell a stone perfectly similar to the stone that fell near Allahabad in 1802 and a stone that fell near Moradabad in 1808. These towns are in the northwestern provinces of India. I have looked at specimens of these stones, and in my view, they are similar. They are of brownish rock, streaked and spotted with a darker brown. A stone that fell at Chandakapur in the same general region, June 6, 1838, is like them. All are as much alike as erratics that, because they are alike, geologists ascribe to the same derivation, stationary relatively to the places in which they are found. It seems acceptable that upon July 15th and 17th, 1822, and then upon the later date, unknown seeds fell from the sky to this earth. If these seeds did come from some other world, there is another mystery as well as that of repetition in a local sky of this earth. How could a volume of seeds remain in one aggregation? How could the seeds be otherwise than scattered from Norway to Patagonia? If they met in space, this earth, and if this earth be rushing through space at a rate of 19 miles a second. It may be that the seeds of 1822 fell again, according to Kemp's yellowish-brown corpuscles, some round, a few cylindrical, were found upon the ground June 1830 near Grisu, Celsia. Kemp's says that they were tubercles from roots of a well-known Silesian plant. Stalk of the plant dries up, heavy rain raises the tubercles to the ground. Persons of a low order of mentality think that the things had fallen from the sky. Upon the night of March 24th, 25th, 1852, a great quantity of seeds did fall from the sky in Prussia, in Heisenberg, Erkelenz, and Jewelers, according to M. Schwann of the University of Liège in a communication to the Belgian Academy of Science. Hold on. No, I'm not even looking. Fucking book. Incomptes Rendus 5-549 is Dr. Waterman's account of water that fell from the sky at Geneva. At 9 o'clock morning of August 9th, 1837, there were clouds upon the horizon, but the zenith was clear. It is not remarkable that a little rain should fall now and then from the clear sky. We shall see wherein this account is remarkable. Large drops of warm water fell in such abundance that people were driven to shelter. The fall continued several minutes and then stopped, but then several times during an hour more of this warm water fell from the sky. Yearbook of Facts 1839-262 that upon May 31st, 1838, lukewarm water in drops, large drops, fell from the sky at Geneva. Comptes Rendus 15-290, no wind and not a cloud in the sky at 10 o'clock morning of May 11th, 1842. Warm water fell from the sky at Geneva for about 6 minutes. 5 hours later, still no wind and no clouds. Again fell warm water in large drops. falling intermittently for several minutes. In Comptes Rendus 85-681 is noted a succession of falls of stones in Russia, June 12, 1863, at Bushkov, Courland, August 8, 1863, at Politzer, Livonia, April 12, 1864, at Nerft, Cortland. Also, see Fletcher's list of stone that fell at Dolgvady, Volhynia, Russia, June 26, 1864. I have looked at specimens of all four of these stones and have found them all very much alike, but not of uncommon meteoric material, all gray stones. But Politzer is darker than the others, and in a polished specimen of Nerft, brownish specks were visible. In the Birmingham Daily Post, June 14, 1858, Dr. C. Mansfield Ingleby, a meteorologist, writes, during the storm on Saturday, the 12th morning, Birmingham was visited by a shower of aerolites. Many hundreds of thousands must have fallen, some of the streets being strewn with them. Someone else writes that many pounds of the stones had been gathered from awnings and that they had damaged greenhouses in the suburbs. In the Post of the 15th, someone else writes that according to his microscopic examinations, the supposed aerolites were only bits of the Raleigh ragstone, with which Birmingham was paved, which had been washed loose by the rain. It is not often that sediment is brought into meteorology, but the report of the British Association 1864-37, Dr. Phillipson explains the occurrence meteorologically and with an unconscious tenderness. He says that the stones did fall from the sky, but that they had been carried in a whirlwind from Raleigh, some miles from Birmingham. So we are to sentimentalize over the stones in Raleigh that had been torn by unfeeling pavers from their companions of geologic ages and exiled to the pavements of Birmingham, and then some of these little bereft companions rising in a whirlwind and traveling unerringly, if not miraculously, to rejoin the exiles. More dark companions, that is said that they were little black stones. They fell again from the sky 2 years later in La Science Portus, June 19th, 1860. It is said that according to the Wolverhampton Advertiser, a great number of little black stones had fallen in a violent storm at Wolverhampton. According to all records findable by me, no such stones had ever fallen anywhere in Great Britain except at Birmingham and Wolverhampton, which is 13 miles from Birmingham. 8 years after the second occurrence, they fell again. English Mechanic, July 31st, 1868. That stones similar to, if not identical, with the well-known Raleigh ragstones had fallen in Birmingham have probably been carried from Raleigh in a whirlwind. We were pleased with Dr. Philston's story, but to tell of more of the little dark companions rising in a whirlwind and going unerringly from Raleigh to rejoin the exiles in Birmingham is overdoing. That's not sentiment. That's mawkishness. In the Birmingham Daily Post, May 30th, 1868, is published a letter from Thomas Plant, a writer and lecturer upon meteorological subjects. Mr. Plant says, I think that for 1 hour morning of May 29th, 1868, stones fell in Birmingham from the sky. His words may be interpretable in some other way, but it does not matter. The repeating falls are indication enough of what we're trying to find out. From 9 to 10 meteoric stones fell in immense quantities in various parts of town. They resembled in shape broken pieces of Raleigh's ragstone. In every respect, they were like the stones that fell in 1858. In the Post, June 1st, Mr. Plant says that the stones of 1858 did fall from the sky and were not fragments washed out of the pavement by rain because many pounds of them had been gathered from a platform that was 20 feet above the ground. It may be that for days before and after May 29th, 1868, occasional stones fell from some unknown region stationary above Birmingham. In the Post, June 2nd, a correspondent writes that upon the 1st of June, his niece, while walking in a field, was struck by a stone that injured her hand severely. He thinks that the stone had been thrown by some unknown person. In the Post, June 4th, someone else writes that his wife, while walking down a lane upon May 24th, had been cut on the head by a stone. He attributes this injury to stone throwing by boys, but does not say that anyone had been seen to throw a stone. Simmons Met Mag 4-137 that according to the Birmingham Gazette, a great number of small black stones had been found in the streets of Wolfhampton May 25, 1869, after a severe storm. It is said that the stones were precisely like those that had fallen in Birmingham the year before and resembled Raleigh ragstone outwardly, but had a different appearance when broken.